And one of the driving forces for everything we do is return, right? So we have to have the return on investment of anything we're putting in. Now sometimes some of the experimental stuff, we're not going to get that return, or the return is the knowledge we've gained in the process, not necessarily the dollars. But anytime we move something from contest acres to production acres, the reason we put on the contest acres is to try it, because we think it might help. And if we find something that's consistent across all of the acres, or we think it will be, then we'll move it. Now, depending on what that input costs an acre, depends, kind of how willing we're to put it out. If it's cheap, then we can put it out on every acre. If it's something expensive, then we want to guarantee a certain percentage of return to make sure to account for the variability. I mean, every year it's not going to return the exact same amount most of the time. Most products are that way. So if it's an expensive product, maybe we're looking for a $1.50 dollar return on investment. For every dollar we spend, we want to get $1.50 back. If it's something cheap, as long as it covers itself, then that's fine. But some of the stuff that we're moving this year, the seed treatment in particular, it's a 3 to 4x return on investment every time we put it on. So that's why we've moved it across on every acre. And it's not super handy to apply. It's something we do here on the farm. But the dollars that it returns, that the product returns, even though it's not super handy to put on, it returns those dollars plus a pretty hefty return on the time invested to apply it. So that's becoming one of our key products. It'd be nice if we could get it just from the seed company, but that's not possible at the moment, so we'll keep doing it how we're doing it. We did the strip intercrop last year. I think in those strips, it's feasible that we may see some 500 bushel corn in those strips this year if the weather cooperates. So my hope is to, in that particular situation, see that 450, 500 number. And if that's something we see, then that will be an impetus to maybe move that type of practice across the whole farm, because that's such a drastic return that it's one of those things that even though it will generate a lot more time, cost a lot more time, that's something that for sure will pay back in spades. So, the time is a significant factor, and depending on the number of acres, it may require some equipment changes to do that. But if we can take, a field average from 260, 270 to 300, 320, 350, obviously that dollar pays back every single time. So one of the nice things about the modern era is really whatever I need, I can have it here in a few days, most generally. So we order stuff online. I mean, we get plumbing components, we get planter components. Most generally, all of that's here within a day or a couple days. And so that process has been streamlined. I guess it makes it a lot easier to do what we're doing when you have that kind of access to parts. Before, if I had to go a half hour to get parts every time I needed something, and then they wouldn't have it, and it'd be the next day, and then I have to go back and get it, obviously that's terribly inconvenient. So we try to, it'd be nice to do more business locally, but because of some of the capital requirements for people having stuff that they may or may not use all the time, they can't stock it, and sometimes, usually by the time I think about it, I need it shortly. I don't always think way ahead all the time like I probably should. So we've slowly begun to add more e-commerce, so to speak, into our supply chain. We ordered probably about half of our chemicals this year via kind of an online type platform with Farmers Business Network. So it can be trying. High yield stuff, you put a lot of effort into it, you put a lot of money into it. Sometimes, you put more money than you would your production acres into it, but sometimes you don't get that money back. So, by the end of the year, you're ready to be done for a little while and take a break and come back, and here we are in May, ready to start all over again. So.